Hello there, and welcome to Live Music and Me, a series of music podcasts where we get some of our friends to come on and talk about their gig memories. Today's guest is the singer, songwriter, and musician David McCluskey. I hope you enjoy this one. All the best now. David, good evening. How are we doing, sir?
Hi Brian, I'm very well. I can't complain.
Bobbing and weaving, bobbing and weaving. Are you ready to have a go at Live Music and Me?
Absolutely, let's give it a go.
Good stuff. I hope the memory bank holds up for you.
Well, it could be struggling a wee bit there.
You're in good company. You're in good company. Okay, let's start off with the very first gig that you went to.
So the very first gig I went to, I kind of struggled with this because it's like being at school and sort of going to gigs and stuff like that. And I was always the youngest of the posse, so that my brother Ken, that some
Yeah.
of you may know, is 2 years older than me. So there'd be him and Paddy and, the older posse going to gigs. And there was a lot of gigs I'm like, I can't get in because I was too young. But 1978, the Clash at the Apollo, and it was the Clash and the Coventry Specials, as they were called at the time,
Okay.
Terry Hall's Specials. So there was two support bands, and Alan Vega's Suicide were
Suicide.
playing as well. So it was a really interesting gig, especially for a freshman like myself. Like,
Yeah. And who,
whoa.
and who was headlining?
So the Clash,
The Clash were headlining, right? Okay.
Clash were the headline band. Yeah.
And that the specials, was that the sort of full forum specials, or were they kind of nearly there, or
It was
yeah,
interesting because musically it wasn't like completely kind of ska kind of, it was quite a mix. Some more, maybe slightly poppier or post-punk kind of stuff.
right?
And there was certainly kind of, rumblings of kind of ska and kind of, essence of kind of reggae and just lovers rock, whatever. But the gear was quite interesting because when you're that age, when you're there with a lot of young punks, it's like, who are these guys? They're not punk. Yeah, hold on a minute, they're not punk. And it was really interesting. Kind of, you think about it now. I think I heard somebody had recorded it at the time, but came across recently. But his voice and his attitude, and he totally won over the audience. Because he
Yeah.
actually won. There was a kind of arrogance about him, which Terry Hall always had. Totally loved Terry Hall's music and his attitude. But he kind of won over just by his strength of character, because it was a bit of a bear pit, a lot
Yeah.
of punk gigs then, or post-punk gigs. You had to really impress, So they were brilliant. So it was almost that they were all dressed in different characters, like as in clothes-wise. Jerry Dammers had like a teddy boy suit.
Yeah.
Somebody else looked a bit slightly modish. And then the guitarist looked quite punky, and so it was a kind of nice mix kind of look they had. Because that was the
Yeah.
first thing I suppose I was like, right, so what do they look like? Are
What
they
they're
punk?
wearing?
And then you heard them, and then it was like, right, it was an education,
Yeah.
as was Suicide as well, because
I
it was like,
bet.
these guys electronic, this is crazy. Frankie Teardrop, but really incredible. And the Clash were brilliant. Obviously, they were the band that you were there to see.
Yeah.
You knew all the stuff, but there was just that really electric, kind
Yeah.
of energy about the Clash, which was just, and they were absolutely stunning, and the place went mental, and.
And what was your take on the Apollo?
After that. The Apollo was, I mean, it was a shithole. It was like an old bingo hall
Yeah.
kind of vaudeville vibe about it, because I always remember you would see them, that bingo hall kind of spray, and it was just it wasn't wallpaper, it was just somebody sprayed onto the wall. Sometimes you'd go to a gig to see the first support man, and there'd be somebody still.
Yeah.
And it was a shithole, but it was a fantastic venue as
It
well.
was.
It's just one of those, juxtaposed. Um, it just had a great sound. You remember being up in the upper circle,
I
you
do.
go, oh, man, the
Yeah.
upper circle. But actually, that was all often a great place to be because obviously you're straining your neck down to see the band way down there.
Yeah.
But the whole thing, as everybody says, and it's true, the whole thing was absolutely bouncing up
It
and
was.
down with everybody pogoing, or rocking away. So no
Plus,
matter where
the
you
sound
were,
was
you
particularly
had to
good up
stay.
there as well, considering how high you
Sadly,
were.
it was,
Yeah, I
aye.
don't know why that was.
But great kind of riotous gigs quite literally riotous, terrible bouncers, as
Oh,
everybody knows, but these absolute thugs,
you were. Yeah.
and been in there, you know, you'd be 16, 15, 16 early gigs, or early gigs for me. And, you know, you would just see these big guys laying into, you know, kids, you know, young
No,
punks.
that's wrong, right? So wrong. But I've got a story about the bouncers at Apollo, but that's for another day. So,
Yes, okay.
so what year was that? What year?
So 70, I think it was 79,
79. Right. Okay.
70, no, 78, 78,
78.
late 78.
46 years ago.
Right.
Right. Well, okay then. So fast forward a bit then. So what was the last gig that you went to?
Last gig was 2 weeks ago. I went to see a little band called Echo and the Bunnymen,
Okay.
and that was in Glasgow. That was at Kelvin Grove Park, part of the festival down
Yeah.
there.
Me too.
And that was great, you know, because obviously I hadn't seen the Bunnymen for a while. Well, I've seen the Bunnymen at different stages over many years. But great to see Ian McCulloch, Will Sargent, you know. I know it's the kind of younger guys in the band.
Yeah. What did you
But
think of them?
just, well, I thought they were brilliant, and I thought there was something, because I've seen them, you know, in different variations, you know, and obviously the original band, seen them at the time. But there was just the whole soul is still there, you know,
Yeah.
and that can be difficult for bands, you know, getting older, and obviously you might lose a few people that pass on or whatever, no longer with us, and you know, you get some young musicians in, like I saw the Buzzcocks, you know,
Of
last
course.
year,
Yep.
but that energy, and the songs are fantastic, you know, and Ian's voice was in top form that night as he appeared out the dry ice, you know, but Will Sargent's just brilliant, you know. And obviously not a big, massive, lively show, but just, you know, you're just immersed in it, you know. And
Yeah.
and I love gigs like that where it's like, you know, it's so intimate because it's Kelvin Grove, you know, it's just this really small amphitheatre outside, you know, in Glasgow, getting a wee bit windy, started
Yeah.
to rain at some point,
It did.
never dampened, you know, the atmosphere. And they just charged ahead, but they were brilliant, you know, and it was
Yeah.
great to revisit a lot of those songs, and yeah, still on it.
And as you say, what is that? 45 years or something they've been doing that. So fair play to them. He's not lost his sense of humour, Mac, has he?
Certainly not. Quite difficult to hear, even for myself, you like that. Sometimes you think you get used to somebody's voice or
Yeah.
accent, you know, but sometimes it's like, what was that?
Yeah.
But people just laugh anyway.
Yeah.
But we heard a few things that he was saying, aye, quite cutting humour. He hasn't lost that,
He
certainly not.
hasn't at all.
And it was
No.
good that he wasn't slagging the sound guy or the monitor guy, because quite often he can spend a lot of time, can't he, going,
He can.
sounds like Chad Valley. Hey, shut it up.
That's
None
very
of
good.
that.
No, there wasn't any of that. No, no. Which I think we'll take that one. It was
Yeah,
good and great venue as well, as you say. So
it's amazing. Aye.
that is fantastic. Okay, cracking to start with. So what about go back a bit then? What about a bucket gig in the past that you wished you'd managed to get to?
Yes, I mean, there's only one. Can I
Give us
squeeze
a
in?
couple's
It's got to be
fine,
one.
but
It's
no,
a
you have a
difficult one,
couple.
isn't it?
It's so hard.
Yes. So early doors, you know, X-Ray Specs. So when you were seeing all these bands, you know, I was still at school, and then you know, you'd be saving up to go to the next gig. Who's playing? Oh, the Damned are playing on Thursday night, right? And it was usually always the Apollo, wasn't it? Unless
Yeah.
it was smaller gigs at the Mars Bar or sort of in pubs or whatever. But anyway, X-Ray Specs were coming to, and I didn't know where this was at the time, the venue, but it was at the QM,
Okay.
Queen Margaret Union,
Yep.
part of Glasgow Uni in the West End. So I remember at the time thinking, I don't know where that is, but I'm definitely going, you know. So you go down there, and of course it's sold out, and you can't get signed in, because you're too young. Because you know you had to be signed in because it's a
Yeah.
student union sort of thing,
Yeah.
and you're too young. So everything going against us. So there was me and a few mates, and actually ended up culminating in about 30 of us, you know, all trying to get in. And you know, you could hear the sport band on, and then X-Ray Specs arrived, and it was like, but a band I always want to see, and especially when you're that age, you're like, "Oh, right, got to see them." So we never saw them, but we heard a bit of the set from outside.
Right. Did you see them at all, or was that
Couldn't
your
see
only
them.
chance?
You couldn't see them.
Did you get to see them later on at all, or was that
Never,
they
I
missed
never
it?
ever saw
Right.
them. Never ever saw them live.
No.
But polystyrene, always loved the whole vibe about polystyrene and just her whole attitude and all that. And I know that she had some issues, you know, later on,
Yeah.
and some health problems and stuff. But
Yeah.
just the whole creativity of her and what a character on that scene, you
Yeah,
know.
totally. Yeah.
Just-
And the venue would have been great as well, having them in that small,
Yes.
sweaty space. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then I was thinking, obviously when the Clash came and did I think it was that 85, later on, the Clash did the busking tour,
That's right.
where they just went to cities across the
Yeah.
UK, unannounced, just turned up with their guitars. And when you think about it, obviously the days before mobile phones, or tablets, or,
Yeah.
when now your pal would go, you need to get in here, you need to
Yeah.
get in. Clash have just arrived, they're doing a gig in the Rock Garden, or at Duke's Bar. So no communication. So we were out in Lanarkshire, and it was like, I think it was the next day, we met our two of your mates, and we're like, oh,
Yeah.
this Clash played at the Rock Garden and they played at Duke's, and they just followed them.
Yeah.
So obviously gutted about missing that. There was another one I was thinking about. And then just to squeeze that in if I can, is the two-tone,
Right.
the two-tone tour, which was obviously it was Madness and the Selector and the Specials, who were all the bands that were on the two-tone label, of course. So I think my brother was there, Ken was there.
Right.
I can't remember why I wasn't there. If maybe it sold out, you just couldn't get a ticket.
Yeah.
But everybody raves about that gig still.
Yeah.
And that was one of those. I was kind of gutted that I missed that. And I saw the Specials later on. So it was interesting when you saw bands at different stages.
Sure.
Didn't see them in that, when they had created the two-tone label. But then I saw them a year later. I think it was 1980 at the Apollo, the Specials' own gig.
Right.
When they were headlining.
They're pretty good, to be fair. You're right. You'd have taken any one of those gigs, wouldn't you? If you could, but you can't go to them all. So
that's all.
literally,
Not today.
I'm sure someone. I need to go and check. I'm sure someone told a story about that Joe Strummer gig. It might even have been David Ross.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll need to go and check that. They definitely referenced it around literally bumping into Joe Strummer and somewhere, and they went to the pop up, and but it was all, as you say, it was all by accident because you couldn't tell people,
There's no social media, which
No.
a lot of young people find that very hard to think about, to fathom. But it was
Yeah.
all word of mouth. That's right.
It was, mate. Yeah,
And kept it quiet. It was, as you say, pop up. You would say now,
was.
pop up
No,
gigs.
they're cracking, all cracking. Okay, so what about a gig that most surprised you, good or bad?
I thought this was an interesting one. Yeah. So my cousin John Quigley, at the time, I think this was about 1980, and he did it. Radio stations used to have, well, still have, a phone-in quiz. So my cousin John had phoned in. I can't remember what the question was. It was like a pop quiz or something like that. So he was like, "Yeah, okay. The answer is Brian Ferry, whatever the question was. It's Brian Ferry." Is correct, Mr. John Quigley from Bothwell in Lanarkshire. Okay, I can't remember if it was Brian Ford's Street Sounds show.
Right.
For those aficionados out there, or was it Billy Sloan? But it was definitely Radio Clyde. So anyway, so back to the DJ, and it's like, you've just won yourself a pair of tickets to go and see Captain Beefheart and his Magic Band.
Okay.
So of course we're like young punks going. And we're like, no, I'm not going to that. We'll just give them away. Captain who? Clueless, right? So again, it's in the Apollo. So we go to the Apollo, and we're like that. Wow! Even just arriving and seeing the crowd, seeing the audience. It wasn't you were standing in a queue with sort of punks or, new wave people. Whole different demographic, shall we say? So you go in there, you can smell the patchouli oil, and you can smell the dope. It was just all these freaks. So acid heads and dope heads and all that. Not that I'm labelling people, but it was quite interesting because lots of kind of psychedelic people, shall we say.
Yeah.
And Zappa fans, and the Fat Freddy's Cat type. Make some reference points about the crowd. But anyway, so we were like that, just people watching like this. Is right. What's this going to be like? Who are these? These creatures. But Captain Beefheart come on, and it was just like, you're sort of blown away. It was just a different realm. Something you wouldn't, we wouldn't have at the time gone to see. And you're just like, what is this? And it was fantastic. It was just, your mind was blown. But it was just like, you're quite narrow being at that age. What we 16, and then your mind is like kind of unlocked and opened up. And it was very psychedelic, kind of abstract, bluesy, very hard to describe, but that whole mix. And then it was theatre as well. I mean,
Yeah.
he was just this amazing, very incredible, charismatic character. And I always remember he kind of shuffled on. It was almost like he was playing at being a really old man, on the street. And he had an old Dirty Mac sort of thing. And the band are all kind of grooving away. And the two guitarists, I can't remember their names, but doing all this amazing kind of like
Yeah.
call and response, abstract, kind of guitar parts. So he kind of shuffles on. He's got a wee table and he's got things. He's got fags. He's got rolling tobacco, and every so often he's like between songs. And then he's got a big hat on as well. And then he's got a bottle inside a brown paper bag. You see in an American movie or Kojak or something like that. The brown paper bag, and he's kind of ice cream for Quo, ice cream for Quo. And it was that tour actually, Ice Cream for Crow, and he did a lot of stuff from Trout Mask Replica, which you then researched later after the gig and went, I'm getting that album.
Yeah.
How many albums this guy got out,
Yeah.
But it was almost like a gig by mistake.
Yep.
We wouldn't have bought that or had a clue who this guy was, but it was absolutely astonishing. It really blew our minds.
And if you had the chance to go, I know he's not here now, but if you had the chance to go now and see him, you'd bite your hand off, wouldn't you?
Absolutely.
That's the thing. So it's amazing how it changes over the years. So
Totally. And it was just an incredible performance. Obviously, sonically it was amazing. It looked great as well. Just all these amazing characters on stage and off stage.
that's a great answer. Well, we've some great answers for that question, because it does get you thinking a little bit. We've had a few honkers as well, as you can imagine. People really looking forward to seeing, and then turned out to be not so good. So that is a good question. Okay, then what about the first gig you went to with a partner?
So first gig, I was thinking about this. The first gig with a partner, I didn't even have a partner when I was really young. It took a long time to get a partner. No, but I do remember being at the Damned at the Apollo again. 1980. It's all kind of 1979, 80. Sometimes late 78, but that kind of later. Anyway, it was when I was just
formative years, isn't it?
A small pocket of time, actually. Obviously, I continued to go to gigs, but to talk about those real primal gigs, those kind of monumental gigs. So anyway, with a partner. So I didn't actually go there with a partner, but I went to see the Damned. And of course you go with your mates, then you get kind of split up with your mates among the jostle, and I think we're in the stalls at the Apollo and you're totally out of the band and you're vibrating away and you're kind of doing your punk posture and just loving the band. And then, you're so tight in with people and you're with a crowd, like people you don't know, and it's all that. And then I just kind of sensed that there was a girl right next to me and we're dancing and we're kind of moving in time and all that. This is sounding a bit dodgy, but I was 15, maybe 16. But hey, we made a connection through the music. So we're just kind of jostling away, watching the band. And then the next thing you know, I don't know how this happened, the next thing you know, we just sort of like took our eyes away from the band and went, and we'd a snog. The next thing you know, it's full helicopter and, full helicopter, 16-year-old helicoptering. Me and the punk girl, and we're like, and then come up for air, and then back into the band, right, new roads, and then a bit more of a snog, and then, right, okay, back into the band. I think there was a wee farewell at Buchanan Street bus station after the gig, but that was a wee jostle, very innocent, but kind of, how the hell did that happen?
Did you see her again?
No.
Wow.
And there's something more romantic about that, isn't it?
Totally.
No mobile phones or social media or emails.
There's every chance you would have passed each other somewhere at some point.
Exactly.
I know. Serendipity, mate. Sliding doors and all that.
Strangers in the night.
Okay. What about a gig that you had a ticket to but you didn't get?
I was thinking about this, and it's like a variation on that theme. We were at Glastonbury, and obviously we were playing at Glastonbury, I think, on the Saturday. It was 1993, and on the Sunday, so you've obviously got to see tons of bands and all that, huge experiences and all that incredible festival that it is, that it was. I know it's a lot bigger now, but anyway,
Yeah.
so you're there and you're soaking it all up, and you're like, "Here we're going to see next. What we're going to check out next." But on the Sunday, it was about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. On the Sunday was Johnny Cash. Johnny Cash is playing.
Right. Yeah.
So guess what? We decided not to go. We decided to leave early. You're like, what was my thinking? Ken and I had a cousin. We have a cousin lives in Weymouth, and we thought it's not that far from here. Why don't we go after Glastonbury? We'll just make it. We'll just
Right.
jump on the train. We'll make our way down to see Mike, our cousin, down in Weymouth, and we left. And then we're like, good to see a cousin, right enough.
Of course.
But we missed the
It was Johnny
legendary.
Cash.
Oh, and his original band,
And was that the legend slot that he played? That was kind of famous one, was it?
I think it was, yeah, 'cause
On the Sunday, yeah?
the
Yeah.
live on the Sunday, yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was the last UK gig, certainly.
Wow.
So gutted about that.
Yeah,
So
totally.
you're like, what were we thinking? Johnny Cash.
I know. And I never seen him, and I know lots of people that, with hindsight, he's a bit of a bucket list. Because in the 70s and stuff, he couldn't buy a gig really. He was, him and Roy Orbison and guys like that were kind of, they were doing the chicken in a basket stuff, so
Absolutely, it's
it's
incredible.
amazing, isn't it?
Incredible. I know. It's like I know. It's like seeing Nico, at Night Moves in Sucky Hall Street, and she had a
Wow.
pickup band. And the pickup band were great. It was James King and the Lone Wolves.
Yeah,
I'm going off on a tangent, but that's one of
it's
those,
okay.
seeing somebody in a small venue and you're like, whoa.
Yeah,
She was just travelling on her own, but getting a pickup band in each town
yeah,
that she was playing.
amazing. Okay, so I guess flip side to the last question then. So a gig that you did get to, but you managed to miss your transport home.
Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. So I was thinking about, again, obviously you're at school, you're not driving or anything like that, and obviously
Yep.
you're relying on, as your question suggests, you're relying on public transport, right? And we were going to be out to, Bothwell and Lanarkshire, which is maybe, 8, 9 miles from the big smoke from the city of Glasgow.
Yeah.
So I went with a posse of pals. Ken was there and our pal Paddy and a few others. So we went to Glasgow Tech. Glasgow Tech to see The Fall, supported by The Cramps.
Wow, that's
Fall
a tasty
supported by The
lineup.
Cramps. And I'm just like, I jotted down, that's 1980 as well. So that was at Glasgow Tech, which was a bit of a kind of poly, kind
Yep.
of college at the time. And there was some cracking gigs. We went there to see there, and a lot of gigs. Some gigs again I couldn't get in because I was too young, and you need to be signed in. You've got to be over 18, and I was 16. Whatever. So went to see that, and it was just absolutely incredible, mind blowing, and just the two very different beasts,
Yeah.
And the Cramps were unbelievable, as a sport band. You're like totally blown away. The energy, just the kind of psychobilly, intensity was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And the Fall were brilliant as well. Although the Fall, it was very hard for the Fall to follow that.
Yeah, yeah, I can
'Cause
imagine.
it was like
Yeah,
they just took over the whole night. It was
yeah,
like, and the Fall were great, but you just felt like, whoa, all your
yeah,
energy's going into that, and that just completely absorbed you. They were so stunning. Lux Interior and Poison Ivy, guitarist, they were amazing. So of course you're looking at the time and you're having a wee snake bite, lager and cider mix, was it?
yeah,
And in a scuffed plastic glass at the Student Union. And then the next time you look at the clock and it's like, oh no, we've missed the last bus, because the last bus to Lanarkshire was about 10 o'clock or something like that,
yeah,
10:30. So of course Paddy, our good pal, lived in Mount Vernon. In the East End, he's like,
yeah.
so you can stay at mine. There's a late bus from George Square, as there was, going out to the East End. So we got the mad the late night bus.
The last bus, yeah.
So we're like, yes, it was worth it. It was worth it. And then you've got school the next day, and you've got to scramble, get rid of the PVC biker jacket,
Yeah.
and take that dog collar off.
And how easy is it to get from Mount Vernon to Bothwell at 9 o'clock on a
Well,
Tuesday morning? Yeah,
exactly. Yes, I think there was buses. Yeah,
yeah,
2 an hour, something like that. But
yeah. But it was worth it, right, for that gig?
it was well worth it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
totally. Magic. Okay, best support act you've ever seen?
Best support act, and I was thinking about this, and of course your memory, you're like, right, what gig was that? What gig was that? So I remember seeing the Slits twice, and I think the first time I saw the Slits, they were supporting the Buzzcocks. The
Right.
Buzzcocks, brilliant band, obviously
Yeah,
another
amazing.
favourite
Yeah.
band, at the Apollo again in Glasgow, and the Slits with sport band, and they were absolutely astonishing, absolutely brilliant. So all women. And again, all of this was an education because you're like, what do you call that? What do you just all these different styles, and you know, it was chaotic. It was so incredibly creative, almost theatrical.
Yeah.
I
They're
mean,
kind of
Ari Up
head
was
of their time, really, weren't they? The Slits.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, and that kind of mix, of kind of styles. Obviously there was a total kind of punk DIY sort of thrash to it, which was brilliant, and great songs and attitude, and there was like sort of real neurosis about it,
Yeah.
and frantic, and colourful, and it was really artful as well. And it was just amazing to see them expressing themselves. I say Aria was just all over the stage, and
Yeah.
just that voice with the kind of almost broken English,
Yeah.
Germanic lilt to a voice, and you couldn't take your eyes off her,
I bet.
And they all
Yeah.
looked amazing. They all, they looked great. They just had top attitude and sneer, and they just, a sport band. You expect that's okay. It's a filler band
Yeah.
for the main acts, and they're going to do their kind of tame version of, the star
Yeah.
turn, the star act. But of course, it wasn't that at all. They just kind of grabbed it by the bollocks, so to speak. And we were kind of
Did,
like,
did, did you
what
have
is
a
this?
Did you have a habit of when you were young, well, generally speaking, but did you have a habit of getting in early enough to see the support acts?
At that age, you always wanted to be. You always, I
Right.
mean, later, you get a bit older, you get a wee bit kind of a bit blasé. Maybe
Yeah.
go and see the last two songs of the second support act. But then it was just like you
Right.
didn't want to miss a trick. You didn't
No, me
want to
too.
miss it.
No, it's interesting.
Aye,
Yeah.
you're frantic in the queue trying to get in and all that.
Yeah.
Trying to
Plus,
get in at the
you weren't really
time.
drinking or anything, so
No,
you were killing time really. So
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely,
Uh,
and amazing. I know the amount of great. So that was certainly a situation where it was like an experience of the sport band. But I mean, Buzzcocks were brilliant, of course.
yeah. Of
But
course. Yeah.
just like
Yeah.
you were like, sport band were unbelievable.
I'll give you that one.
And of course, that was the record, and the record's not out yet.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Then of course saw them again when they played at the City Halls, and that was there. They were headlining, of
Right.
course.
Okay.
Um,
Great. I think it's the first time the Slits have come up, which I'm surprised at, bearing in mind some of the chats about
yeah,
late '70s and stuff. But
yeah. And it's
yeah,
amazing when you think, as you said, before their time, and that there's so many people influenced by the Slits. I
totally.
mean,
Yeah.
even you hear a lot of Bjork, especially her vocal style and all. It really reminds me a lot of Ari Up, and
Yeah.
just that kind of fusion of kind of thrash and punk and kind of reggae and
Yeah,
ska.
and even in America with Go-Go's and stuff like that,
Yeah,
there was that whole side of it that inspired as well, which was amazing. Have you read Viv Albertine's books?
yeah. I read one of them.
She's got a couple, hasn't she? Yeah,
Boys, what was it? Boys' Clothes.
car.
The
Yeah,
second one, fantastic. I just love her voice.
yeah,
And talking about those times, and it's just it's amazing to get her
that
perspective
is. Yeah,
on
they're great
things.
books. Yeah,
Obviously John Lydon's in there, and Sid's and all that, and all these characters, and you're just like, she's got a great way of writing, yeah,
she
and I love
has.
the way
Yeah, very funny, but also kind of very honest and sad in many ways as well. Yeah, but
totally,
they're well
really
worth a
sort of
read.
gripping and hilarious, and and yeah, so truthful, about her
Yeah,
own
very.
upbringing and
Yeah,
all that, quite dark at times,
yeah,
but
absolutely.
I think she's a stunning writer, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Next one is a few interesting answers. The best music festival that you've been to, and we've allowed anyone that's an artist, we've allowed them to answer that either as a fan or as a performer. We'll give you either
Yeah.
or
Again, I always
both.
find it hard to say one, the one, because, for different reasons,
Yeah,
because, small, intimate, festivals on an island, I had a few great experiences there, and there's a little festival we used to play called Barra Live on the Isle of Barra,
okay.
sitting in Tungasdale Beach, and it was just amazing. It's just like, it was like a circus tent,
Yeah,
across from the pub, the Castle Bay Hotel, just along the beach a wee bit. and just everybody from the island is there, and obviously people from the mainland like ourselves. Just a whole mix of bands and local bands and some Gaelic bands, and it was just absolutely brilliant. That for a small festival, I loved it. I think we did it twice, and then you got to know so many people, and I just love it when it's that situation. You go to play, but you're actually absolutely loving it and just taking part in everything, participating in everything, which is magic. And just very small DIY, low budget festival. We did another one a few years earlier as the Bluebells, and that was Sky Festival.
Yeah, I remember that.
I think Nazareth played it that year, and Battlefield Band, and but it was just one of those absolute scorcho, stunning weekends. For Scotland, as we know, it's very unusual.
Indeed.
It was just like 3 days of absolutely stunning weather, beautiful, and it was in Broadford, in kind of valley.
Right.
I think our dressing room was the primary school, was the kind of dressing room for the bands.
Yeah, perfect.
But just this backdrop looking up to the mountains, was just breathtaking. And I always remember, the pub. There was one local pub at the time in Broadford, and it ran out of beer. And that the pub was supplying the beer for the festival, as well as you could go into the pub. It wasn't like a big cordon security fence or anything. And the pub ran out of beer, and they had ordered another 2 trucks, and everybody was waiting in the tents coming over in the ferry. Probably, and then just to contrast that with Glastonbury. I mean, I know a lot of folk are quite cynical about festivals and stuff, but that was, I mean, we did quite a lot of festivals in Europe with the band, the Bluebells, and that was excellent, but probably, Glastonbury, first time I played it in 1993, it was an amazing experience because it's just this whole immersive planet that you just arrive in, and you could quite easily go and not see one band, but have an incredible time.
What stage did you play the first time in Glastonbury?
I think the first time, I think it was the Mean Fiddler, tent. I think it was, and I think the Pogues and a lot of bands like that were playing as well. And of course, you're going around all the different stages. And what was amazing was you couldn't write the script, but so the first time we were playing as the McCluskey brothers, so Ken and I in our band, we had a touring band, so we were in that tent, and exactly the same time. You know how they jig about with the timetable or the schedules for different stages. So we were thinking, right, can't wait to see the Velvets. The Velvet Underground were playing, on the main stage, the Pyramid stage, whatever.
Yeah.
And then they jiggled the timing of them, or they went on later. So it was like they were on exactly the same time as us in the Mean Fiddler tent. So we missed it. We missed it. You must
have been tempted to fly through your set,
Totally. I know, and of course everybody, the whole festival went to see them. Like, what? So that was funny, but we missed that. Missed the Velvets. And then the year after that, I played with the Trash Can Sinatras.
Okay. I didn't know
that. I'm trying to think. Was that the acoustic tent, or was it the Melody Maker tent? And I was playing Hammer Dulcimer. I played on their album at the time, Happy Pocket, and I did some gigs with them as well. Kind of did a bit of a tour with them, so that was excellent. Kind of experiencing it with a different band.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had John on the podcast, John Douglas. So, gentleman,
great songwriter.
Yeah, he's solo. That new solo album he's did is fantastic.
So looking forward to hearing it.
Yeah, really good, really good. So what about, you've moved around quite a lot there, so I don't know if you've answered this already. What about the gig that you've travelled the furthest to get to?
Well, so that's going to a gig, as a fan. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's not that far when we look at it in a global perspective, but London.
Well, that's quite far.
London, it's all relative. When you think that it was only 15 at the time, so Ken would be 17. But we went down to London, and actually we're down with our parents. But we were going down with our older brother Phil lived in West Kensington.
Yep.
So we're staying with his. And then our parents went away. We were down for the weekend. Then they went home and went like, no, we want to, because we just wanted to get out and get into the scene, you know,
Yeah.
and get to gigs. So we stayed at our brother's in West Kensington in London, and then and round the corner was the Nashville, a venue called the
Yeah.
Nashville.
Yeah. Yeah. Remember that? Yeah.
It was part of that circuit, wasn't it? A lot of punk bands and all that
Yeah.
played
That's
there,
right.
7 onwards. So we go round the corner and we're like, right, okay, who will we go and see first? And it was like Simple Minds tonight, you know. And we're like, wow.
Wow.
So all the way down to London to see the Simple Minds. Although that wasn't the plan, it was part of the plan because we just wanted to go down and see what was happening and
Right.
see the live band. So we went into the Nashville, you know, and I remember that was the first time we saw Davy Henderson and Jane Henderson.
Okay.
Which is, and I know some people get mixed up with Davy Henderson, not Davy Henderson from the Fire Engine.
Fire Engines. Yeah.
He's a beautiful, fantastic guy, and great artist. But David Henderson, who is a sound engineer,
Yep.
producer, works a lot these days with Teenage Fan Club. And Davey's a good friend. But that was the first time we saw them. But they were outside, coming outside the Nashville. And they say, I'm 15, Ken's 17. We look over and we just see these two really cool people. And we're like, look at them, man. They look amazing. Who are they? Because we knew what the Simple Minds looked like.
Of course. Yeah.
Maybe they're the sport band. Who are they? So, you know, Jane looked absolutely stunning. Rest her, you know,
Yeah.
Jane died, you know, some months back. But just a beautiful, beautiful person. And Davey, the two of them looked just outlandish, as your auntie might say, you know, but they looked like from another planet, you know, just like kind of makeup and just amazing hair and just fantastic clothes and a bit mysterious and a bit, you know, kind of post-punk, kind of look, hard to describe, but quite mystical. And, you know, we got talking to them and they were dead nice and they were great. We're like, oh, brilliant. So we went to the Small Minds, and obviously Davey's at the back doing his sound, and Jane was doing the lights, you know, beautiful kind of psychedelic lights.
That's right.
And again, quite an intimate gig to see the Simple Minds.
Yeah,
you know.
totally.
Quite
Quite a bit of an irony there too, that your father's gig is a band that you could have saw in Socky Hall Street or whatever,
Absolutely.
Night Moves or whatever, right?
That's right. That's right.
That's right. I mean, you're only 15, did you say?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
I mean, that's a huge thing to do at 15.
Because the first time I'd seen them was at the Apollo supporting Susie and the Banshees.
Yeah.
Jim Kerr and co. So I didn't see them in the Mars Bar. That was the very early days, you know, when the pubs that you know, the pub, one of the pubs that back when a pub that
yeah, 15. That's amazing. I'd tickets to see the Jam on their farewell tour in London in '82. And I never got, and I only never got because I think I was 16 or 17, and I just couldn't get. Do you know that way? I didn't have the money. I think I just started working. I couldn't really get the time off work. My mum and dad couldn't give me the money. I bought the ticket and then couldn't work out how to get there.
Yeah.
And never got. But I saw them in Glasgow. But again, I've still got the stub line somewhere that I just never used. But it's a real shame, isn't it? But what are you going to do, you know?
Part of life. Yeah.
Exactly, it's part of life. You're absolutely right. Okay, let's see, a couple to finish then. So, a bucket gig that you are still waiting to go to, somebody that you haven't seen that you would really like to see if you get the chance.
I'm trying to think. A band that I would really like to see that I haven't seen yet. Now, I thought about this. I need to try and remember. You would think it would just come naturally. There's somebody. I mean, obviously Dylan. You know, you would say Bob Dylan. You know, I've never seen Dylan. I know that
No,
Dylan has played.
me neither.
He's still touring. And
Playing Edinburgh soon.
is he? So maybe that'll be it. Maybe.
Maybe.
I'm sure it'll be well sold out. But
I said that at the Armadillo and couldn't get a ticket for love and the money. So
I heard he was stunning, Armadillo.
me too. Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
And I don't mind if it's like, but some people say, but you won't recognise any of the songs. 'Cause he doesn't. Yeah.
But it's Dylan, right?
The
So
interpretations of, but that's Dylan.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so it's a good answer, and you've obviously seen that many as well. That you do tick them off a bit, don't you? So,
Yeah.
what about the kind of
Neil
band or
Young.
artists? Sorry, David.
No, it's just because I saw Neil Young. Not that it's like you're a stamp collector, but I saw Neil Young and Crazy Horse. Although the venue wasn't great, it was at the old SECC.
Right.
Before they had made the acoustic adjustments to it, so the sound
Yeah.
was pretty sharp. But actually, they were amazing, you know. And but I'm going off on a tangent because
No,
that's
no, it's
something
fine.
I did
No.
see.
Well, Young was on my bucket list, and I managed to see him a few years ago at the Hydro, when the sound was amazing, actually, to be fair. And he also, that was one of my missed the last public transport home because he broke the curfew that night. He played past 11 o'clock,
Brilliant.
as he would, and it was a Sunday night, so we had
Yeah.
to get a taxi home to Greenock, which wasn't cheap, but well worth the money.
Oh, that'd be way over the boundary charge as well.
Mate,
In the
tell you.
taxis. Oh,
Aye,
boundary charge.
and
Lanarkshire,
dodging the
10
bullets to get down
plus.
there, right? You know what I mean? Okay, so what about the band that you've saw the most, do you think? Who would that be?
I was thinking about that, and you're probably the band I've seen the most, Orange Juice.
Right, okay.
Um, and obviously, you know, kind of so Orange Juice as a fan, as well as, you know, playing gigs with Orange Juice
Yeah,
when, you know, the Bluebells were on Postcard, although we didn't actually put a record out on Postcard. But
yep,
we were part of that stable of bands. But yeah, I mean, I loved Orange Juice, and used to go and, you know, go and see them in lots of different places. And I remember seeing them in like East Kilbride, Olympia, you know, big shopping centre in East Kilbride,
yeah,
and the compare, the kind of DJ was John Peel, you know,
okay.
and
Because
I,
he loved him at the time, right?
eh?
Peel loved him at the time, Orange Juice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah,
they did a lot of sessions,
that's right.
on Peel. And the Fire Engines played that night as well. And
Wow.
Davy Henderson, the other
Yeah,
Davy
yeah,
Henderson and the
yeah,
Fire
yeah.
Engines were fantastic, absolutely brilliant. Um, but yeah, just, you know, in Valentino's in Edinburgh, and see them in lots of different kinds of places, different kind of venues in London and stuff, and um, as well as I remember, like, you know, they used to play in the Spaghetti Factory.
Right.
A lot of the geeks will know the background, but, you know, early days of Postcard, and the Spaghetti Factory is on Gibson Street in the
Yeah.
west end of Glasgow. It's now Stravagan.
Stephen, that's right.
Stravagan, that spot right there.
Yep.
Remember, they had a kind of residency, and Orange Juice would play like every Thursday night, you know, and you know, we used to go and see them. And I remember one night when Stephen Daly, the drummer, couldn't make it; he wasn't there. So of course I'm sitting like that, you know, because the kit was all set up. I'm like, I'm there, yeah.
Yeah. And did you?
Absolutely,
You
absolutely.
did?
Remember
Wow.
doing a 15-minute version of Sweet Jane.
Wow. I didn't know
Set,
that.
yeah. I
That's
set
magic.
in. I set in for Stephen, you know. End up. So we used to, and then we you know, would support Orange Juice and
Yeah.
asked camera a lot. And in fact, I remember I bought Stephen's kit, Stephen's original Gretsch, his old
Right.
Gretsch drum kit, when they signed a major record deal and got loads of cash and new equipment.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll have your Gretsch kit.
Yeah. Absolutely. Any recordings you reckon from the spaghetti? Are you on the drum kit? It's
That,
got to be. There'll be a tape somewhere, won't there?
you could put it out there. You could put it out there. I'd
I
love to
will.
hear
I will
it.
put it out there. I guarantee, particularly with that postcard stuff, because
Yeah,
there's a real kind of love in for that, isn't there? So
yeah,
people they go
yeah.
and find all that old memorabilia and stuff. So
And that was Alan Horn's Max's Kansas City, you know, Spaghetti
yeah, that's
Factory,
right.
you know, the alternative non-pub, you know,
Ah, very good. I didn't know that. That's
tiki
magic.
bar. Yeah.
I will ask when I put it out. I will ask that question. Somebody somewhere will have that for sure. All right, Magic. What about back to being a performer again then? So, what about your own favourite gig as a performer and why?
Always find that quite a difficult one, but because obviously there's small gigs you've played or that have just felt really good, and it's not being sort of full of, you know, um, your own importance, but going, oh, there was something great about that. Because it is, it's just that relationship with an audience, isn't it? And the
Yeah,
venue, and just something clicks, you know. Um, I mean, I think the last time we played, which was that about a year and a half ago, we played in St Luke's, you know, St Luke's in the
I was
East
there.
End of
Yeah,
Glasgow. Was that last year?
it was. Yeah, it was. Yeah,
What was that?
not long after the album came out, right?
It was a summer gig, wasn't it? And it
It
was
was.
just, you know, one of those kind of hot
Was
nights. It was
sweating. Yeah.
great, one of my favourite venues, actually. You know, so yeah, there was just a real amazing atmosphere about that, and I thought we played well, and we're all feeling good, and there was just a great vibe. You know, you don't like to review your own gig, you know,
No,
but
it's a
there
fair
was something
question
that really
because
happened there that
there was
night.
something emotional in that answer, isn't there? It's
Yeah,
not just it was the biggest or,
yeah.
you know, it was on TV or whatever. We did one with, I did a podcast with Robert Howard from the Blow Monkeys,
Mm-hmm.
and he told a story about supporting Ross Stewart and someone else at Wembley Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason it was his favourite gig was that he made a sort of political speech on the stage at Wembley, all about South Africa at the time and Nelson Mandela and all that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and it all get cut out. It was on, I think it was on the Tube or something. It all get cut out. The edit for the Tube, and he started singing "Do You Think I'm Sexy" on the stage and like that. So it wasn't his favourite gig as a performer per se, but it was his most
Yeah,
memorable. It was what he says. I think I was proud of what I did and what I said, and you know,
absolutely.
and I get that. That's kind of really important. All right, cool. It's very interesting. Okay, and St Luke's was brilliant by the. That was an amazing gig.
Thank you.
Absolutely brilliant. Okay, favourite live venue then?
Favorite live venue. It's kind of horses for courses, isn't it? But obviously, there is such a thing as, yeah, your favorite venue, you know, to go to. That's what's always great about, you know, when I'm saying, you know, you're 14, 15, going to see bands, and then, you know, it's quite incredible to think that, God, we eventually played some of these places, you
You
know.
did, yeah,
I mean, even playing the Apollo, although we were a support band, you're supporting Haircut 100, but you're like, on that stage, it was really bizarre. It was quite
yeah,
surreal because you've been that kid down there all those
amazing.
years. um, so it's always great when you get to experience what it feels like up there. But I would say, I mean, it's a probably an obvious answer, but the Barrowlands is unbelievable. It is incredible, you know.
Yeah,
And obviously travelled around the world, played a lot of different venues. Um, but you know, there is just something incredible about it. You know, it's what is it, 1950s dance hall, and it's not
yeah,
been well, probably not in a lick of paint since the 50s. Um, there's just something about that. It just has all the raw material to make an amazing night. You know,
yeah.
obviously it's got that wait, is it the what do they call it?
The sprung floor.
Sprung,
Yeah,
thank you, sprung floor. So the acoustics in the place are unbelievable.
yeah,
And you know the way you feel it through your whole body, you know, the
you do.
bass end, you know, the bass drum and the bass frequencies are like, oh my God. No matter where you're standing, if you're at the
Right.
front or in the middle or at the back of that hall, the Barrowlands, it is astonishing. It's so hard to beat, you know, and that really kind of low ceiling. It kind of looks like it shouldn't sound that great, you know,
Yeah,
polystyrene tiles on the ceiling. But yeah, I mean that's a fantastic venue. As I say, it's just got all the right kind of qualities, and obviously it just needs an audience, you know, and a really good band, you know,
yeah,
to make it happen, you know.
yeah.
And you know, I would say St Luke's as well. You know, I was
Yeah, because
talking
that's
to
quite a
somebody,
new development really in the city, isn't it? And
great job that they've done. So,
magic.
yeah,
I know Michael Woods that
right.
kind of owns St Luke's, and he's a great guy. He's from the East End, and the stuff
Yeah.
he's done is fantastic there. So
So, and you know yourself, there's been a lot of churches, you know, old churches converted into
yeah,
venues, you know, and it's a bit of a nightmare, isn't it? You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
how do
yeah.
you convert? Because often, yeah, the natural acoustics are like, might be okay for an acoustic choir, you know, or
A
an
church organ,
organist,
yeah,
church organ. But so obviously needs a lot of work, a lot of treatment. And I'm not a technician in that area of acoustic design, but whatever they've done in St Luke's, it's astonishing because without it, keeping all the kind of
sure,
features of that structure of a
yeah.
church, but it's just the sound quality is fantastic.
It's
It's
fantastic.
unbelievable.
Michael will tell you it was a labour of love for sure,
Yeah, I
but it
bet.
was worth it, I think. So
Yeah, definitely.
okay, a
Yeah.
couple of tough ones to finish then, right? So as a fan, your favourite ever gig?
Our favourite ever gig, right? Gosh, right. As in the Bluebells.
No, no.
Sorry,
As a
sorry,
paying customer.
sorry. As a paying customer, sorry, I get
Yeah.
mixed up. Favorite other ever gig. I'm thinking back to some of the questions I was answering earlier because there's so many gigs that you're at, and you're just trying to think of that impact it had on you. You know, so like I mean, the Clash were
Could
sorry, the
be your
Clash
first one. Sometimes it's your
quite
first
simple.
one.
But the
That's
Clash,
yeah,
yeah, were fantastic live, just incredible energy, and you just did feel like, you know, it reflected your teen angst and your teen
Yeah.
energy, and attitude, and educated you as well. They always had great support bands, so that, as I say, you always went early to get the full show, and quite
Yeah.
often support bands were elements of what they were into,
Yeah. Absolutely.
Often the Clash had reggae bands and stuff, so they were educated, or I was as a kid,
Yeah.
um,
Me too.
so I
Yeah.
dubbed different styles of reggae and different cultural styles of music. Total education. You're like, wow,
Yeah.
eye opening. And then obviously the Clash come on, and they're hard to describe, but yeah, absolutely
Force of nature, right?
life changing. Yeah.
Yeah, life change is a good way to put it. And to finish then, so what about one live album everyone should have a copy of?
I was thinking about this, and generally, I'm not really a big fan of sacrilege to say it, probably,
No, 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 we've
of
had that.
live albums, because obviously it's two separate things, and
Hmm.
how can you capture, even with the technology we have now, for recording sound, and but I was thinking, from my experience, the Ramones.
Ramones
Um,
live.
the Ramones live, that album, is fantastic, because it kind of does capture the
Yeah,
Ramones. Obviously, when you've seen them live, it's like they'll do 45 songs, and each song's like 3 minutes, between two and a half
tops.
minutes long or 3 minutes long.
Yeah,
1, 2, 3, 4.
yeah,
Yeah. It's so fast.
yeah.
But just that energy of the Ramones, just unbelievable. Um,
You
I
didn't get the
can't
chance to
imagine.
stand in as a drummer for the Ramones, no? You weren't hanging around CBGBs or anywhere, no?
Even then, on a natural high, age 14, 15, being a punk drummer, I was like, oh, that's a tough gig.
Yeah,
Um, it's Alive was the name of that album, wasn't it? The Ramones live
yeah,
album.
it
But
was.
to me, it's one of the few live albums I've heard that kind of does capture, that energy. Obviously, not completely. You need to be there. You need to be immersed in that live experience of going to see any band. But it does kind of capture the kind of attitudes and the energy of them,
Yeah,
and just so many songs, and, and
you got your money's worth, right?
unbelievable. Yeah, yeah.
It's a cracking album. I
Teenage
think,
Lobotomy, and I think some of the song lyrics, and
yeah, yeah. I think
Smoke
someone's
Away
called it
Beach.
out before. I think they might have done as well. Same reason, really. So close as you get to being there,
Yeah.
kind of released off the desk or whatever, just pretty clean and warts and all. That's what it should be, mate, right? Any chance to a Bluebells live album?
Well, funny you should say that. Nice link.
Thank you.
Well, we're in talks. Our people are in talks with it. No, we're talking. We're planning next album, which I think is going to be live, as in live in the studio,
Okay.
not
Yeah.
not with a live audience.
Okay,
So
that'd be interesting.
as live as possible. I think because we've got such a really good band now, and obviously the guys that we've been playing with for quite a long time,
Yeah.
and they're good pals as well, and soulmates.
Yeah.
So we're planning get the studio. Um, we've got lots of songs, and we want to work that out with the band in the studio. Rather than going into the studio and everything's all kind
Yeah.
of complete, it just needs recorded. And we don't want to do the kind of over rehearsing thing or over produced. We want to kind of keep that kind of rawness.
Yeah, that'd be great, mate. Yeah, we look forward to that. I know Bruce Springsteen's last album was pretty much recorded live in the studio with E Street, and that was Van Dance encouraging them to go back to what they were really, which was a kind of, bit of a garage rock and roll band. And obviously all polished up and stuff, but 90% of it was one take band in the room thing.
It's the best stuff is. Best stuff
Yeah,
is. It's kind of full circle. And it
absolutely.
just when I think about even like early days of when we went into studios at the Bluebells, and the record label put us into all these, like, at the time, phenomenal top-notch studios, which cost a fortune, and often they were making you very aware of how much it cost.
Yeah,
You're in Air Studios in Oxford Street, or just a lot of kind of big studios at the time. And then, click tracks, and you get to a stage, you think, sorry, what's happening? And then I know that, at the time that was quite alien to me, because it was like the headphones and click tracks and stuff. Now click tracks are no problem, but
Right.
playing to a metronome. And when I was younger and naive, you play to a click track, but it would just be like a cowbell, and
Yeah.
and your headphones. Of course, it's a nightmare. What's happened to that? What's happened to my wonderful feel? So everybody, so many people have gone through that experience, and obviously there's ways you can use technology, you can play
Yeah.
with it, but
Yeah.
it doesn't need to be this rigid kind of metronome
Yeah.
type thing. But you learn.
Well, that'll be
But yeah,
great.
that was quite interesting. So it's nice to go full circle,
Yeah.
have our ownership back,
I mean, you all bring your songs in. So I think the last album, you got like an equal share of writing, didn't you? Songs on
yeah.
the
But
album.
the way we did the last one
Yeah.
was we just decided, why don't we just write 4 songs each? Well, we had more songs than that, but we
Of course.
just
Yeah.
pick out your 4 songs, and that was interesting because playing to the other
Of
guys
course.
your songs.
Like a jukebox jury or something, right?
Totally. No, that's a loser. Give it a chance. So
Yeah.
that was quite funny, but no, it was really interesting. And then obviously we're all inputting in each other's
Yeah.
songs, and I think we've got different ways of writing, but I think it does really complement.
No, it works. Yeah, it was a
each
great
other.
record.
So,
And you've saw that. I mean, the feedback and the plaudits for it were everywhere really and very well deserved. So I'm sure the next one will be great too, mate. Okay.
thank
Well,
you.
that was live music. Me, how was that? Was it okay for you?
Yes.
Good. I'm glad we get round to doing it after your travails.
Is that us off recording now?
No, but we're just about to go off right now. So, you want
No,
to save
great,
anything before we go? No. No, we're about to finish. So, David McCluskey, that was live music. Me, thank you very much for your time, mate. Thank you.
Thank you. Really enjoyed it, Brian.
Cheers, mate. See you
See
soon.
you. See you soon.